Looking at when I'm meeting customers on automation, I realize that people are not prepared. They don't know how to bring the projects to life. Because the first thing you're going to see is you're going to have a business owner calling you saying, "Hey, I want to automate my factory." But then you start asking questions and you realize that the whole experience, the old exercise has not been done before to knowing what they need, because people think it's I'm going to automate my factory. You know what I need. You're the machinery guy, but I don't know how it's happening in your factory. I don't know how you're building your product. Even though all of you are building windows, there's so many ways to be building them. There's so many different numbers. If you do 100 windows a day and this guy does 200, we're not gonna have the same factory. It's not just duplicating how you're gonna integrate the equipment. So the objective was to understand the benefits of automating, and understand the challenges that you're facing when you want to automate. That's the main focus I took into this presentation. Sorry. So first thing that we're always looking for is trying to eliminate the errors, all the production costs that are happening in the factory. People are thinking, I want to go faster, I want to make more windows. I want to avoid the mistakes. So the mistakes we're looking at, really, when you have to go down, you have to go down on your factory floor, and you have to find those employees that are taking decisions. You have to find employees that are taking measurements and try to avoid having them do so. So you're trying to avoid any knowledge to be left to the human in your factory. You want them to operate equipment and not being the one that are actually fabricating the windows. So this is how you're gonna be approaching your project. Speed and quality of process is gonna happen by itself. I could be in a 3.0 factory. If I'm looking at a welder that we sold 20 years ago, that's gonna be welding a square in about 2.5 minutes. If I change the machine for a new welder, for one brand new welder up to 2024 standards, I'm going to cut down the production time in two. I'm going to be at 1 minute or 1.5 minutes for a square, but I'm still going to be in the same age of the 3.0. I have not improved my factory. So moving forward to automating a factory, it's going to be it's going to come by itself, that the speed and the quality of the process is going to be improved by itself. So those are little facts. I don't really like numbers when like I just said at the beginning, like 30%, because it doesn't speak for all. If it speaks for all industries, it speaks for Canada, but it doesn't speak for our industry that we're in. What we're seeing there, it's Statistics Canada, Radio Canada. Those are facts, and those are the reality that happens into our factories, the one that we automate. So companies that invested in robot, it says robot, we can think about automation here, because robot does not mean automation. Increase in productivity. So how do you bring your project to be efficient so that you reach those statements here? So the steps that I'm working with when I'm talking with a customer is, first of all, is analyzing the current processes. So going down to the floor. It would be just too easy for you to call me and say, I need a new welder, quote me a welder. If you call me and say that, I'm going to take an appointment with you and I'm going to go walk your floor, because you might not need a new welder, or maybe not just a new welder, or maybe it's not the right investment to buy a new welder and not a new corner cleaner at the same time. It's not me trying to push and buy, so you buy more machine, but you, at the end of the day, you have an ROI to meet. So let's look at all the different processes that are happening in your factory. Find those employees that are taking measurements, that they have to make decisions. Is it a right? Is it a left? They have to go through paperwork. They have to do all those different steps that could be avoided with automation. So this is going to start your project on automation. Then the second step, evaluating technologies, calling guys like me and my competitors. What's out there? What's out there now? What's going to be out there in 5 years from now? Where can I bring in my factory? Am I aware of all the different technologies that are out there? If you are not out there, you're doing the right thing today. You're here, you're evaluating the hardwares, you're evaluating the glasses, you're evaluating profiles and all of this. You're putting yourself out there to knowing what's going to come for you in the next years. So that's a very important step. Don't just sit there and think that you have all the knowledge, or because you have a team that looks at it. Just go out there and get all the information on different equipment that exists. Implementation planning. So planning, I'll give you an example of that. Do you have all the details when it comes time to do the implementation? We were at a customer installing a full pass-through line, and at the end of the installation, once the customer is ready to approve, he says, "Oh, I forgot one profile." This one profile could have cost thousands of dollars to the customer. Why? Because we're not just adding tools. While we're adding tools, you're not using your equipment. While we're adding those tools, you don't have any production. There's the price of the tool. There's the price of the knowledge that you just missed. And this customer took the decision not to go forward. He said, "I'm still going to do this step by hand next to it." So he just lost part of his ROI. The goal of the automation was to avoid all those steps, and he took a step back saying, "I'm going to do this by hand because I forgot about it, and I realized it's going to cost me too much to be doing it at this moment." So implementation starts from the analyzing your needs and making sure that you haven't forgot about anything that you need. Involving the team. Can't stress this enough. If you're a business owner, you are not the end user of the equipment most of the time. So make sure that you go through all the levels when you're working at an automation process. Because your people on the floor, they do have the knowledge of being on the floor, which you might think you have when you're sitting in your office because you've run the business. But at the end of the day, you're not the one running a welder. You're not the one running a corner cleaner. They have knowledge that is important to know. And the last thing you want to do, the worst thing that we see on the floor, is people coming in and installing an equipment and going to their employee. So this is your new equipment. This is what you're doing now. The employee, you've ordered this machine a year ago, and this employee just hears now, this morning, "Oh, by the way, you have a new equipment to work with." Is he going to be stressed for his job? He has to learn new things, a new process, and all this, and you're just pushing it down his throat. So involve your team to all the different levels when you're looking at automating a plant. You might be surprised of what people are going to bring forward, and you're going to be eliminating a lot of problem down the line. One practice that I like to do is if let's say we would be looking at an automated plant, well, if to an extent of capability, if you could place your factory the way it will be when you will get the automation. Let's say you have the welder at one point, you have the corner cleaner at one point, and you will eventually have the tables, the working benches. Even though you don't have the buffers in between those machines that you will eventually get, place your factory the way it's going to be in the future. So once the technology comes in, the employee is already used to be working in this area. table just changed in front of him, but it's just you've explained him before that it's going to be easier for him, making sure that he knows that, and it's not his job he's going to be losing his job because there's new technologies or anything. So it's awareness of your staff. It's one thing that I see a lot of issues. I'll give you an example. We've installed a saw in a few months back. We do the whole install, go through training and everything with the customer and his employee on the floor. The employee on the floor figured out a way to slow down the machine. Customer calls you a week after the install and he says, you're not meeting the goals that we set we were going to meet. This saw is done to be cutting 400 squares a day, and I'm not reaching my numbers. So we go back, we analyze everything. So first thing we're going to look, there's a preloader. Is the preloader always full? Yes, it's always full. So the employee is doing his job on that side of the machine. We're looking at the cutting. We're looking at the fab. We're timing everything. We're looking at it. Where is the problem of the machine? And all of a sudden, you walk down the machine, and this machine has a table that is like it's falling down, so the material comes closer to the employee. And once the machine is full, it turns on a switch, so the machine stops, and it doesn't just push the material on the floor. So it's a safety on the machine, so there's no one that gets injured because material are falling on the floor and everything. But this employee figured out that when he turns this switch on, the machine stops. So now I have time to go get my paper. Now I have time to go get my next bogey. I can bring the bogey to my buddy over there that works on the welder and maybe have a chat. So what this brings me back to, did we analyze everything? Did we analyze that the employee that's supposed to be removing material out of the saw every 30 seconds throughout the day is also the one that brings the bogies from the saw to the welder? We forgot about this. And this guy, he's brilliant. He figured out how to do it. He just stops the machine. So as you stop the machine there, you're not preloading. So when you restart the machine, it has to go through the cycles to open some space in the preloading area, and then you're regaining your production. So at the end of the day, they were losing about 25 to 30% of production on the saw just because this employee figured out how to stop the machine from working and go chat with other people in the factory. So analyze and inform your people and make sure that everyone is at the right place in your factory. Case study. This is a factory that is in Germany. I have visited this factory with about 15 different customers in the last 10 to 12 years. So this is nothing new to them. Automation is nothing new to Europe. They are way ahead of our production. And the easy answer to that is people are saying, oh, they have the Eurogroove, they can automate their factories. Well, this factory is not doing any automation with the Eurogroove, but the rest of the factory is automated. So it's not the answer. So what you're looking at, the white square on the top right is where the saw is. I do not have this part of the drawing because it's not my supplier that supplied the saw, so that's why it's not on the drawing, but you can imagine that the cutting area is in that hole. They have about 10 employees to be doing 100 windows a day. None of these employees, actually one of them, moves around the factory. All the other employees are working in about 3 to 5 square foot area. Every single customers that I visited this factory with tells me the same thing. The first realization they have is like, boy, no one here works very hard. because they don't see people moving. The material gets to them. The one employee that moves around is the one that makes sure that the guy at the sash table does not miss screws or hardware or everything. So he's the magazine guy. He brings material to everyone that is missing stuff. So it's a quite simple factory. You have the welder on top, corner cleaner. The green squares is where the frames are being put the hardware in. Sash are going to the last table on the bottom, and that black line at the bottom is where sashes are going into frame. And then where you have the circle, there's a glass sorting system and a suction cup system to put the glass into the sash and the frame. So you're looking at a factory that does only 100 windows a day and have a glass sorting system. No fabricator, or almost no fabricator in Canada, have a glass sorting system. Not even the big guys. So why does this small company have looked into automation? So this is the question we have. They've had the issues with labor a long time ago that we're starting to have around here, and they've looked into their process. They've analyzed the data. They have analyzed all the different work. So how can we make this better? Because this was installed about 15 years ago, so technology's evolved. This welder is not a high-speed welder. It welds one square every 2 minutes. We could cut that down to a 1-minute cycle. This corner cleaner is a one-head corner cleaner with rotation table. Takes about 2.5 minutes, again, to do all 4 squares. We could integrate a pass-through corner cleaner in there. Pass-through corner cleaners could have integrated hardware locations to it to make the jobs of the guys that are assembling the hardware easier, not taking any decisions, just filling the holes. If you go down the line, you have a suction cup system. Could be a robot now that would put the glass into it. We're not seeing the cutting area, but the cutting area could have an automated carousel system, honeycomb systems for all the profiles. It's all technologies that have evolved, and these people are keeping themselves aware of the new technologies that are out there. And even though they are a small fabricator, they don't stop there. They don't say, I'm too small to automate. I have an issue. The solutions are out there. The guys that are selling honeycomb systems or carousel systems for lineals, they will be more than happy to sell you a system that only has 10 spots. They do not only do systems that have 200 or 2,000 spots. They will be able to do a factory that makes sense for you, for your needs. A high-speed welder is not only speed efficiency, it's also quality. So if you're looking at avoiding mistakes, getting a better quality, speed will come along. So it's not the one thing that you have to keep in mind when you're looking at automation. There's much more to be looked at. What's the future? Future of factory organization, obviously AI. We hear about it. There's tons of solutions that are out there at bringing the information back. This factory I showed you in Germany, I could track your order and know exactly where your sash is at this exact moment right now. So if you have a customer that is calling you every 5 minutes and saying, hey, where is my order? You could tell them, well, it's being assembled at this moment, should be done in about 5 minutes, because the information is there. That doesn't come with the machinery. It's not me. It's not the machinery guy. It's the knowledge you can bring out of those equipment. So that will be the 4.0. This is what you can get from it. So this is why we're saying that the industries that we have now are not even close to be at the 4.0, because most of us are not finding those information. you can get information from a punch, even though there's no electricity on it. You could have a sensor that senses the air going through the tube and knowing how many punches you've done in one day. This is information that you don't have in your factory right now that you could get, knowing, why is my punch so slow today? Well, it takes about a second, and then if you have the information, you can know that at noon the employee is not even done a quarter of what he's supposed to be doing today. You do have that knowledge now. You do have that information, that capability of getting the information. So this is all AI. I've seen factories that have intelligent stickers. So you can, with a scanner, you can know exactly where in your warehouse is order for Martin. I'm looking for it. I can put a scanner at the garage door where I'm loading the truck. So as soon as the lift goes into the truck, I know this material is out of my factory now. This is the new technology that are coming along and that you're going to be able to find to better your factory, better your knowledge of what's happening into your factory and correct those mistakes. So, automation, efficiency, the one word I love and that I'm going to push to you is organization. Automation is organization. If you organize your factory, automation will come by itself. Speed will come by itself. Quality will come by itself. So organization is the one word that you have to leave here with in your mind. So I'm going to leave you with the question on how do you see the future of automation in your own organization? Any question? I'm sorry. Any questions?
Right here, Adrian.
Adrian.
Hi, I'm Richard Harrison from Pollard Windows and Doors in Burlington, Ontario, Canada. We utilize lean philosophies or lean principles when we are looking at automation. Are you using any of those principles in your?
You mean if we're looking at lean production in?
So we use lean principles. So
Yeah.
we are organizing our plant and automating as much as we can. But in doing so, we're following some philosophies. What kind of philosophies are you?
The one thing I'm going to be looking at the most for what we do is going to be to try to manage time as best as possible. So what we're going to be trying to do is, for example, if I know like a welder is a 1 minute cycle, I want to integrate as much as I can into the saw, so it becomes a 1 minute cycle. And then the next step is also a 1 minute cycle. So every workbenches stays at that one cycle. So you're creating like the perfect loop. So this is the element, the philosophy I'm going to try to be focusing on and trying to understand how many employees is needed into a factory. Any other question? Comments? Insults? No? All right. Thank you very much for your time. Yes.
Thank you very much.